President. Please be seated. The court is back in session. Before handing over the floor to the co-prosecutors and college lawyers to put questions to this witness, the Chamber would like to inform the parties regarding the submission responding to document E319/32. The Chamber decides to hear submission of parties in the afternoon after the lunch break. Number 2, regarding the submission, regarding the photographs, the 5 photographs requested by the defense counsel for the accused, and we may find and give further information about the 5 photographs also in the afternoon. Now I give the floor to the co-prosecutors and college lawyers to put questions to this witness. You have only 35 minutes to finish your line of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to let you know, the co-lead lawyers have requested 15 minutes, so I will use another 15 minutes myself, and then they will have 15 minutes of questions, so we will finish within our time. Mr. Witness, you were, before the break, you were describing an event in which the brother of the Phnom Srok District Chief, Tamon, was arrested. You identified earlier, we talked earlier about the other sector cadre who was not to be arrested in the list you saw, and I apologize if I am not pronouncing his name correctly, Tayu, the person you identified as in charge of the economics and supplying rice to the sector mobile forces. Did this person, Tayu, have a role in the arrest of Tamon?
Answer: regarding the arrest of Tamon, I did not see Tayu there. He held no position. Tayu was asked to call Tamon from my unit. That was his function at that time. And as I said, he was the one who was responsible for supply rice for the mobile units.
Thank you. Did you know a cadre from the southwest named Ta Rin who came and took over as the Sector 5 chief? And if so, can you tell the court a little about Ta Rin, what kind of person he was?
Answer: I know Taran, but I am not able to recognize him. I did not dare to look straight at his face. For this reason, I could not recognize him. I only knew that he was chief. As I said, I could not recognize him.
What kind of person was Taran? Was he a good person? Was he a cruel person? Can you tell us a little bit about him?
Answer. Whenever he came down to implement a work, he was quite good and kind. He was not a cruel person. He was kind and gentle.
Did Tarun sometimes come down and work amongst the people without anyone knowing that he was the sector chief?
Answer. Regarding this point, I never witnessed him coming down to work. I only met him once in a while. I was not with him all the time.
Do you know what happened to Rin, to Sector 5 Chief Rin and his family at the end of the Democratic Kampuchea regime?
Answer. I have no idea on this point. I simply knew that Tarina was the sector committee after the arrival of Vietnamese troops. We departed each other, and I have no idea whether he was reassigned to work somewhere else.
Mr. Witness, document E3/2254 in this case, E3/2254, ERNs Khmer 000866766, English 00789-707, French 00834-853, is an S21 record, an interrogation log, which records that Sector 5 Secretary Heng Rin entered S21 on the 16th of November 1978, that his spouse, So Rong, was sent to S21 on the 27th of November 1978, and that his 13-year-old niece, Chu Ton, entered S21 on the 16th of December 1978. Does this refresh your recollection? Did you ever hear about the arrest of Tarin, or why a person you've described as someone who was kind was arrested along with his wife and 13-year-old niece? Did you ever hear anything about that?
Answer. On the matter, I have no idea on the matter.
The last few questions I have to you, Mr. Witness, concern another witness who gave evidence in this trial last month on the 26th and 27th of October, 2 TCW 996. As this is a person we have to maintain a pseudonym, Mr. President, I'd like to show the witness the OCIJ statement from this person to see if he knows and can identify or knows 2 TCW 996. So with your leave, I'd like to provide document E319/19.3.18 to the witness to have him so that he can see the name of this person.
Just to assist, Mr. President, we have actually uploaded yesterday the photo of the particular witness, because we would like to ask questions later today about this witness's testimony. That might be helpful as well. It's E3/9443, English ERN 00729874.
If counsel wants to provide a hard copy, I'm happy to have the witness provided that also. I think the photo shouldn't be publicly shown because I think this witness testified in closed session, but I'm happy to provide the photo with them in addition to the OCIJ statement, with your leave, Mr. President.
President, you can do so.
Now, Mr. Witness, I don't want you to say the name of this person out loud because his identity remains confidential. But if you could look at the photograph, but also look at the biographical information that I've marked on that second page, and tell us, without saying his name, if this is a person that you know. Do you know this person, Mr. Witness?
Yes.
Now, in his trial testimony on the 26th of October, around 3:15 in the afternoon, 3:14, this witness identified you as one of about 10 or 15 chiefs who participated in what he called a secret meeting with Taval and Tahong, at which Tahong or Taval announced that the subordinates in the mobile forces would become captains in the near future. Do you remember being part of a secret meeting with Taval, Tahong, and this person?
Answer: I do not know about the secret meeting as said. I have never heard of any secret meetings held.
And this individual whose statement you were provided in photo, can you tell us what position this person, TCW 996, what position did he hold in the Sector 5 mobile forces during the regime? Was he a regiment commander, battalion commander, company chief? Do you remember what position he had?
This person was seen by me in the mobile units. I do not know his function and position. I do not know whether he was chief of platoon, company, or battalion. I used to see him, however, I did not know his position and function.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. We have no further questions.
President, thank you. Now the floor is given to legal lawyers to put questions to this witness. You may now proceed.
Thank you, Chair, Mr. President, and good morning, everyone. My name is Miguel Riguero, and I am lead co-lawyer for civil parties. I have a few short questions to ask of you today on the Trapeang Tamal dam worksite. Yesterday, at 2:25 p.m., you told the prosecutor that your role on the worksite was to generally supervise the workers, and that you had general supervision of the forces on the worksite. And it is on that I wish to ask you a few questions today. My first question is the following. What was the freedom of movement of the workers on the site? Workers in the mobile units, did they have the right to leave the worksite at will?
Workers at the Tribunal work site could go freely within the limited section where they worked. If they were to cross to another sections worked or to go visiting their parents in the village, they had to obtain a letter of authorization first.
Who gave such letters of authorization?
If, for example, they lived or worked in the 10th unit, then the chief of the 10th unit would issue such a letter of authorization. And if the worker worked for the 20th unit, for instance, then the chief of the 20th unit issued such authorization letter.
At the time, were you told why there was such an authorization system, why you needed a laissez-passer?
If a worker traveling across another unit or trespassing another village or commune or cooperative, that person had to have the letter of authorization. So when they cross from one village to the next, or from one commune to the next, or from one district to the next, then the person has to obtain a letter of authorization first from his or her immediate supervisor. However, workers could work freely within the work site at the Tribunal dam.
And who supervised these letters of authorization? Were there any militia or checkpoints, guards that checked people's letters of authorization when workers left the perimeter that they were supposed to work in.
There was no guard at a checkpoint. For instance, a person had to travel from village A to village B. It means that upon the arrival of village B, the chief of that village would check for the laissez-passer.
At the time, did you know what would happen if someone left the perimeter without laissez-passer, without a letter of authorization?
If a person crossing from one village to another without having a laissez-passer, for example, arriving in village B, then the village B chief would not receive that person and would dismiss that person from the village.
À votre
To your knowledge, was there any punishment for those who traveled without a laissez-passer?
I do not know about anything that or about a case that a person traveled without a laissez-passer.
Those letters of authorization, were they mandatory at any moment during the day or the night? In other words, any worker who sought to leave the perimeter to which he was assigned during the day or at night needed a letter of authorization? Or was there any moment during the day or in the evening when someone could have freedom of movement?
When a person left his or her unit to go to another unit, his or her immediate supervisor would issue a letter of authorization or that laissez-passer, and usually it only happened during the daytime. Chief of the unit usually did not issue a laissez-passer for night traveling.
Donc, est-ce que je dois comprendre que les déplacements...
I might understand that moving at night was not authorized?
Of course, workers could move freely within the unit, but if a worker has to go to another unit or a village or a commune, then the chief would not be responsible for that person because it means the person left without his authorization.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you. To your knowledge, these authorization conditions, were they different for the base people than for the new people? Were there different conditions? Yesterday, at 2:30 p.m., you said that the sector mobile units were 50-50 with base people and new people. And so, these two classes of workers, could they move as freely?
In the mobile units, of course, the same laissez-passer would issue for all those workers, including the 17 April people evacuated from Phnom Penh. Laissez-passers would be issued to all those workers, regardless whether they were new people or the 17 April people.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you some questions on something you mentioned yesterday. At 3:38, you said yesterday that those who committed moral offenses were forced to marry, and that these ceremonies, these marriage ceremonies, happened within the unit on the worksite. I am referring here to what you said at 3:38, 40 seconds yesterday afternoon. And I wanted to know if you were a direct witness to marriage ceremonies, wedding ceremonies, on the worksite at the Trapping Tamal Dam.
I participated in the marriage ceremony. At that time, it was referred to as the event of holding hands, and it refers to the marriage ceremony, and I attended such a ceremony.
If you remember, can you tell us how many of such ceremonies you participated in on the worksite at the Trapping Tamal Dam?
At the Trapping Tamal Dam worksite, I attended such an event once, and there were many couples who got married that day. However, I cannot recall how many couples. There could be about 50 couples.
And who decided to organize this wedding? Do you remember?
The marriage ceremony meant and the women, when they consented to the marriage, then chief of that unit would organize the event.
Vous avez parlé.
Yesterday you spoke of weddings in the context of people who committed moral offenses. In the ceremony to which you participated, in these 50 couples, had they all committed moral offenses? Or were these couples not necessarily guilty of moral offenses, just for clarity?
Among the 50 couples, not all the couples committed moral misconducts, and there were only 2 people who committed such a misconduct. And these 2 individuals were very fashioned. And later on, their parents and relatives were asked about their commitment, and a ceremony was organized for them to get married.
L'échelon.
Did anyone from the upper echelon or anybody tell you at the time why mass weddings were organized on the worksite?
I do not know about that. I saw several couples who got married that day, and I could not say anything. Sometimes I wanted to laugh for such an event, but I did not, and that was the way they organized. I could not help it.
Avez-vous
Do you remember, and this will be my last question, do you remember if you have ever received any instructions on holding weddings on the worksite? Was this ever discussed during meetings with the upper echelon?
upper echelon would make an announcement that on a certain date people would get married, and those people who were to be involved in organizing the event, namely unit chiefs, would be informed about that. So usually all the chiefs were informed about such an event.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Witness. Mr. President, I don't have any more questions.
បាទអរគុណ
President, thank you, and I'd like now to hand the floor to Judge Lavange to put questions to the witness.
Oui, merci.
Well, thank you, President, and good morning, Mr. Witness. I have a few follow-up questions to ask of you. First and foremost, I would like you to explain what you understood were the relationship between Ta Val, Ta Un, and Ta Nim and Ta Chil. To your knowledge, did they have the same mindset? Or did some wish to rebel?
I was not in a position to know about who actually had any idea to rebel. However, I myself was thinking about the fact that they all were part of the revolution. How come there was a distinction between those individuals? For example, Ta Val and Ta Hung was on one side, and Ta Nhim was on the other side. And I did not know whether these two, Ta Val and Ta Hung, received any instructions from anyone. However, this is my personal suspicion only.
Avez-vous
Did you ever hear of a plan seeking to give weapons to members of the mobile units? And if so, who was the source of this plan, and was this plan ever put into practice?
Regarding arming the mobile unit force, I think the investigator who interviewed me misunderstood. When I said arming the mobile unit forces, it means giving them the holes to dig the dirt. For example, at the Kongwa work site, there were a lot of forests to be cleared, and they need weapons in order to clear the forest. And the weapons here refer to the holes. Ta Val held a discussion that we needed to find more weapons to arm our mobile unit forces, and the weapons here refer to all the holes, the knives that were used to attack these so-called battlefields in order to clear the forest and to plant cotton trees. Because while we were at the Kambao Dam work site, we only had holes, and when we were reassigned to plant cotton trees, we needed knives as well in addition to holes in order to clear the forest and to plant the cotton trees. and the investigator who interviewed me misunderstood when I talk about the weapons. I did not talk about guns or ammunition, but I referred to hoes and knives.
Est-ce que vous savez
Did you know if there were any links between some cadre of the East Zone and some cadres in the Northwest Zone? And did those links have anything to do with a plan to rebel?
Regarding the communication between the East and the Northwest Zone, I only heard about it. I heard it said that the East Zone hate the brides, while the Northwest Zones hate the grooms, and they wanted to match the grooms and the brides. That's what they said at the time. However, it was simply a rumor, and I never heard any people at the zone level speaking about this.
Selon vous,
According to you, who had Taval and Tahan arrested? Who arrested them? Were they the forces of the Southwest cadres? Or did this order come from Tanim or Tachil?
I did not know who arrested Taval or the Nyim. I only knew that they were arrested. As for Taval, in the morning I saw his wife raped, and subsequently I learned that he had been arrested at night time, but I did not know who actually arrested him. And as for the arrest of Taheng, I did not know when it happened.
est-ce que vous avez
Were you ever made aware? Did you ever know if there had been any secret warehouses where weapons and munitions would be stockpiled as well as foodstuffs?
No, I did not hear anything about that.